welcome to the May meeting of the South Range Board of Education. The first item on the agenda is stand and the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Phillips, would you please call the roll?
Brian Bagwell. Here. Taylor Christian. Here. Terry Lally. Here. Amy White.
Here.
Ralph Wins.
Here. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the April 20th, 2020 meeting. Are there any additions or corrections?
I inadvertently left off Jim Richley on the minutes for the $836 additional work performed as music drumline instructor. As you know, our standing resolutions allow Mr. Dunham to approve those and bring it to the board at the next meeting. And it was to be in the last meeting, but it was not. So I added that to the minutes for last meeting.
Okay. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes from the April 20th meeting?
So moved.
Amy moves. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Next up would be the treasurer's report and Mr. Phillips.
Okay, our regular general fund at April 30th was $4,220,406.50. We do have a June 1st bond payment out of the 002, the third line down. It's showing a balance of $1,490,599.22. The June payment, as usual, is just interest only of $261,812.50, leaving a balance of $1,228,786.72 in the debt service retirement account. Towards the end in the 500s, you'll see some big negative numbers. Those have been both submitted as cash requests and received, but not till the beginning of May, so the receipt isn't showing on this report. Our grand total for all funds, $6,074,749.38. Okay, at Farmers National Bank, we had $4,497,182.48. Home savings, $1,043,111.29, and Star Ohio, $241,059.59. That totals $5,781,353.36. We had outstanding checks totaling $292,616.02. As always, the petty cash of $780. And when all that math is done, it does balance at $6,074,749.38. We've also received the revenue, appropriation, cash disbursement reports in addition to this cash summary report. And if there are any questions, I can entertain those now.
Okay, are there any questions on the financial report from Mr. Phillips? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the financial report.
So moved.
You move, Brian?
Yep.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Taylor seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And on to Mr. Dunham and new business.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to have, physically good to have everyone back here this evening. We have Mr. Rowan and Mr. Zolik and Mr. Matus representing their respective buildings, and I believe Mr. Zolik is going to be the spokesperson for all three for this evening.
I just wanted to express from my end my
Thank you, Mr. Zolik. Rowan, Mr. Matus, good? Okay, thank you. I do have Mr. Pagnotta. He's up in the catbird, actually up in the catwalk. I don't believe he has anything to report on, so it would take me to either Mrs. Lally or Mr. Christian.
Oh, no, thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next up would be discussion on the adoption of the 5-year forecast. And Mr. Phillips, I'm sure you have some comments you'd like to make about that.
Well, first comment, this is probably the most challenging I've ever, since 1996 or 95 when they started this, trying to update and come up with reasonable assumptions in such an unreasonable time was a challenge. We don't know next year, will school open and be just like it is now? Will there some come some days, some come, we don't know. And all those things have financial implications. So in my management discussion at the beginning, I've said all those sorts of things to let people know. Nobody really knows what's happening. But again, this forecast, as with every forecast, is a snapshot in time as of today, assuming we're going to run the programs that we're running now. And with that said, at the end of this year, we had some good things happen. Our revenue was up 0.62%, largely in part to $135,000 increase in general property tax. Obviously, the state foundation went down, and in this case, between the cut and, every day or every 2 weeks when we get a state foundation report, depending on the work our EMIS coordinator does, the funding changes because kids move around. And so you never know. Again, it's a snapshot twice a month of what your annual amount is, and then that's where the adjustments come in for each individual payment. But we were $165,483 less in state foundation than anticipated. We know that the cut is $222,000. So obviously, if we wouldn't have been cut, that would have also been up. Going down to expenditures, we spent 2.61% less than we intended back in the fall, spending $356,000 less. All that said, we have a better balance than we had, and of course, balance is exponentially graduated each year. When you go out 5 years, if you have, just for example, a $100,000 balance, that turns into $500,000 by the end of 5 years. So, all said, as of this look, given these, I'm going to say reasonable assumptions, they're the most reasonable we can come up with, and they've all been given to you, and you've had an opportunity to look at them. Based on that, it looks like we're going to be good through 2023. Again, that can change on the dime next August, depending on what other challenges, what mandates in order to reopen the state might put on us that aren't figured in here because we don't know them yet. The state might not know them yet, probably doesn't. Very uncertain time. But the news right now today is good. Things are turned out a little better than we thought they would last fall when we adopted the first forecast. If there are any questions on anything that was sent to you for the document of assumptions or the forecast itself, I can entertain those. If not, then I'm done with that.
Okay, thank you very much. Going over to Mr. Dunham and talk about the approval of the distance learning plan.
As you're all well aware, we have been implementing a distance learning, remote learning plan since March 18th, several months now. The Ohio Director of Health, in pursuant to Emergency House Bill 197, ODE's guidelines, and the governor's guidelines, make it mandatory that we have a distance learning plan in place. So this resolution authorizes myself, our admin team, to implement a written distance learning plan as part of the approved resolution. You can see the resolution in front of you. It's quite lengthy, but it really talks to the governor's orders and the Ohio Department of Health's orders to close school. Exhibit A, it's also in your packet. This was reviewed with SREA, the association. They have been shared this document, and they have approved it as well. So I'm asking again for this to be approved by the board. It's an approval of a distance learning plan for the 1920 school year pursuant to Emergency House Bill 197.
Okay, next up would be the annual renewal of the food service contract for the 2021 school year.
Mr. Phillips?
Each 5 years, in 2012 was our initial contract, and then in 2017, we had to go out for bid again and renew another 5-year contract. So next year will be the last year of our current contract. But in addition to that, we annually renew based on their budget projection, which, like mine, is based on us coming back to school. So we don't know, and they don't know what next year is going to look like, how many lunches will be served, but we're still in the 5-year contract. This is just our annual, and every May, if you look back in minutes, you'll see, I think it was in April's last year, but you'll see that we approved the renewal to keep the nutrition group as our food service provider.
Okay, next up would be the resolution to maintain employment and compensation of non-teaching employees, contracted service providers, and consultants for the remainder of the fiscal year 2020 to support continued operations and declaring evaluations impractical. Mr. Dunham?
You may recall back on March 30th, we had a resolution to pay our non-teaching employees through May 15th. Of course, May 15th was Friday. So this is an extension of the resolution from March 30th, recommending to continue payment to our non-teaching employees, which would be our classified employees who have been on call during this closure. Again, the resolution was written and approved back on the 30th. None of us at that point in time would have had any idea school would remain closed through the remainder of the school year. Our classified folks, many of them are back just about full-time at this point. On May 26th, everyone will be back that's classified, that's a full-year employee. This June 30th date was recommended by legal counsel in the event some unforeseen circumstances occur with non-teaching employees if they were to come back full-time. The other piece to this, if I'm not mistaken, it's in here, would be the teacher evaluations. Because they are impractical at this point, we would roll over, just like all the districts are doing, would roll over their evaluations to the 2021 school year. There is no report card data that would be part of their evaluation other than the observations and performed by the building principals. Some were incomplete at the time of the closure. So again, the suggestion and recommendation is to roll that over and complete it for the 2021 school year. So there's two pieces to this resolution. The continued payment through May 26, basically, of our non-teaching employees, mostly part-timers, and the teacher evaluation system for 1920.
Okay.
I'd like to add to that, June 30th, that doesn't mean we're going to be paying all employees, like hourly employees, whenever their contract ends, the last day of school or the day after the last day of school, whatever they were scheduled for the number of days, and the days they were scheduled is how they'll be paid. The salaried people like custodians and bus drivers, that covers them through June 30th.
So pretty much, Mr. Phillips, May 26th is the date that we're looking at for the part-timers, right. So a week from today. A week from, I'm sorry. Yeah, a week and a day. The 26th is a Tuesday, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think 25th is Memorial Day.
Monday, right.
Okay, next up will be the modification of the fourth 9 weeks grading scale, and again, due to the COVID-19 crisis. Mr. Dunham?
Very, very similar, and you can see the theme with COVID-19. It's changed dramatically a lot of the things that all districts are doing. We've had this discussion going for quite some time. The fourth 9-week grading period. I recently released a document outlining the changes to students and parents. And I said in this memo, it was an oversight on my behalf not to get it to everybody prior to tonight. But the changes, grades K through 8 would be OS and U, outstanding would be 100% to 90%. The satisfactory would be 89 to 60%, and unsatisfactory would be 59% and below. That's grades K through 8, and grades 9 through 12 would be pass, fail. So our building principals, and they're here tonight, and they can probably do a better job than I in terms of the specifics, but they fielded some calls to clarify some of the changes, and it's been expressed, and we've been very clear on this, that the final grade of the year will be based on the student's whole body of work over the entire school year, not just the fourth 9 weeks or the third 9 weeks, but the entire school year. So that whole body of work will be taken into consideration when teachers calculate their final grade. And in 99.9% of the cases, students will be held harmless in terms of their grades due to the hardships of COVID-19. You can imagine we have some students that have all the technology you could ever imagine, and they've been able to be connected from basically March 18th through today, and we have some students that are really, really struggling. We have parents that are working, single parent families that, again, child care is an issue, so it's not a normal 44 or 45-day grading period. It's been very difficult and a lot of hardships for many people. So to avoid some unfairness, we looked at what could we do to be able to reward and justify kids that really have continued to work hard, and we've done that with the OS and U, and in the past fail with the high school. It presents some other issues. So hopefully that's something that makes sense to all of you. I don't know if building principals have anything you can add to that or justify or rationale. It'll be up to you.
I will just say that you mentioned OSU for K through 8. Our 8th grade algebra students, since that is a high school class, they will be going by the pass fail.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
That's high school credit, and that counts toward graduation and whatnot. So the 8th grade students who are in the algebra class will be taking pass fail because of OSU.
I would say from an elementary standpoint, thinking about what I would say exactly how Mr. Dunham explained it, we saw a lot of issues, especially our students with special needs, what they were doing in their classrooms, their teachers, our regular ed students, again, talking about the fairness. A lot of times, elementary students, they're at the mercy of who's at home with them. Are they getting up on time to get on their Google Meets with their teachers? A lot of times they're missing it. It's not really their fault, but it's just maybe it's a scheduling issue. And we just felt that even some of our top students were not performing the same way that they were if we were face to face here in the classroom. We felt the OSU was just a more fair way for everyone to get through this last 9 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the explanations there. Next up would be, again, our annual approval of payment in lieu of transportation. Mr. Dunham, you speak to that, please.
Yes, as you're aware, we have, other than the last several months, we have students that attend charter private schools, which we do not provide transportation because it's impractical. In this case, at the end of the year, we do provide payment to those parents that transported their son or daughter to those institutions, providing they have verification that their son or daughter actually attended. In this case, that payment would be reduced about 1/4 because of COVID-19. So we would pay 75% basically of that in lieu of transportation payment.
Okay. I was asked by one of the board members, this isn't on the agenda, but the June meeting, I have a board member that would like to change it to the following Monday to June 22nd. Am I correct in saying that date? That's and that. So is everybody okay with a June 22nd change? What? Okay. Then I am open for suggestions. What? On when?
The week of the 8th.
Did you said, didn't you, Mr. Dunham, that you were coming back on somewhere from?
Yeah, I don't know if it's possible or not to look at the 9th or 10th.
Make it a Tuesday or a Wednesday of that week?
That'd be fine.
Everybody okay? Any preferences? It makes no difference to me, any of these dates. So we want to move it to Tuesday. Somebody give me the date there. June
9th.
June 9th. Okay. All right, we'll change the June. We'll come back through it. I'll ask for a motion for that, but Tuesday, June the 9th. Okay, at this time, that's all the agenda items. If there is anybody that would like to come up and speak, please state your name, your address, and any questions on any of the agenda items at this time.
Actually, it was asked if Mr. Zulik could repeat for the 8th grade because they couldn't hear you at home.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just said that you need for the.
Yeah, if you could speak in the mic.
I'm sorry, all I said in regards to the OSU, those 8th grade students who take Algebra 1 with Mr. Miller, they would be graded on the pass-fail scale as opposed to OSU. That's high school class, it's for high school credit. So they would be pass-fail as opposed to OSU. That's for our 8th grade algebra students.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody that would like to speak at this time?
Rich Renchak, 115 Longview, North Lima. Jim, I was just looking at your 5-year financial forecast, and I didn't realize for the last 3 years, it looks like you guys actually spent less than you took in. When I'm looking at the total revenues and then looking at total expenses, it looks like you actually spent less money than you took in. But then going forward, it looks like the expenses start to exceed the revenues. Is that? I mean, we're looking at your 5-year financial forecast. Am I looking at it right that way if I just look at total expenses, total revenues?
If you're looking at line 6.010, yes.
My question is, what's contributing to that? I mean, if we've been spending less the last 3 years, why all of a sudden are we jumping up and spending more?
When you forecast out in the school business, our revenue, because of House Bill 920 for real estate and because of the way they've been funding for state foundation, which are our two biggest revenue, those remain relatively flat. Depending on triennial update and the 6-year update of forecast, you can have spikes there. Otherwise, it's maybe 1% a year that go up there. However, when you have 2 and 3, sometimes 3-point-something% consumer price index jumps, that means when we buy supplies, we're paying that much more. And basically, that's what contributes to it, is inflation on all expenditures.
So you think it's mostly supplies, or is it mostly personnel and retirement and benefits and things like that?
Well, our biggest revenue is state foundation and real estate tax. Our biggest expenditure is salary and benefits.
So, I mean, to balance that, you think, what do you think they'll have to do in order to balance that? Because like you've always said, you can't spend more than, or you can't run a balance. So in 2023, when you're starting, when you're deficit spending, how do you anticipate you'll have to balance that?
I anticipate the board will make that decision.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then I'd like to speak on the fourth 9 weeks grading modification.
I'm sorry, on what?
The grading modification for the fourth 9 weeks.
Okay.
So I think for K through 8, I'm perfectly fine with that, especially if the 8th grade algebra students are going to be graded on a high school scale, because that, like you said, it's high school class. My worry is with especially grades 9 through 12, because all of our students, K through 12 have been working hard through all of the challenges, but with 9 through 12, your GPA starts to kind of, I don't want to say it starts to matter, because for grades K through 8, it's good to find out where your strengths are, where you need improvement, but kind of grades 9 through 12 is where colleges, tech schools, depending on whatever job or apprenticeship, it starts to affect your future a little bit more. Is there a way we could keep K through 8 as it is and do 9 through 12 on the A through F scale like we normally do? Obviously, teachers would have to make considerations based on the individual student's needs, but is there a way we can keep the 9 through 12 A through the regular grading?
Let me try to answer it this way, and it will help with Mr. Rowan here as well. You heard me use the phrase, the entire body of work that a student's been performing over the last year. If Mr. Rowan were to stand, and he would tell you that we've seen significant discrepancies with student work over the last 8 to 9 weeks. We have certain kids that may have had a 3.0 that they're not performing as a B student or an A student. And we have some kids that may have a 1.0 that are performing like a 4.0 student for some pretty obvious reasons. The teachers really can't control what kind of assistance or lack of assistance our kids get at home. So we're really not getting a real true snapshot in time of our students' achievement during the last 8 or 9 weeks. So again, the main thrust is let's hold our kids harmless. Let's not, GPA is a great reason to hold them harmless so that we're not going to affect the GPA. Mr. Rowan, I know you've talked about situations where there was an A minus, an A minus, a B plus in the fourth 9 weeks. Run that through a little bit.
The teachers are still going to use the fourth 9 weeks as a percentage.
Mr. Rowan, maybe you should use the mic so you don't have to say this over again.
Not that you're not loud enough, but it would help.
Talk like you do on Saturday mornings when you wake me up at 6 in the morning.
So they're going to use the fourth 9 weeks still to help calculate a year grade. So Taylor, when you're talking about GPA, of course, for the high school kids, the only grade that would calculate into their GPA would be either the end of a semester grade or the end of the year grade. So a kid's 9-week grade helps determine what they get for a final grade, but that one 9-week grade is just a piece of it. Generally, we go first 9 weeks, second 9 weeks, third 9 weeks, fourth 9 weeks. They all carry a certain percentage, 20%, midterm 10%, final 10%. Well, we did midterms, but we didn't do finals. And with vouchers in the high school, my staff just didn't feel comfortable doing the midterm and the final 10%, because we wiped finals out because of what we're talking about of the validity. What's the validity of what we're getting? And I will say this, I didn't say anything when Dan and Steve said about the OS and U. The pass-fail for the high school, it was me that asked for us to hold off on that decision as long as we could, because I didn't want it to affect. If my high school kids knew we were pass-fail in April, then the work that they handed into my teachers would have reflected pass-fail. So the waiting for as long as you waited, I appreciate you doing that. We didn't lie, we weren't dishonest. It was a decision that wasn't an easy decision. A lot of schools have done that.
And I think we did it the right way. Some schools announced it way early, and I have friends that are administrators or teachers at different schools, and they said as soon as they announced it, they immediately saw a difference in the quality of work that the kids were handing in. I feel like my teachers over the last week or so, they're telling me that the quality of work has changed and it's only been a week for us. So us stalling as long as we did, I appreciate it. But going back to Taylor's question about I'm with him. The GPA does matter a lot more in high school than it does. It still matters in the middle school, but a lot more in the high school. But that fourth 9 weeks is still going to be looked at. And the way we talked about it as a staff was this. It might bump a kid up a half a grade. It might bump a kid down a half a grade. But where my staff is really struggling with it is if a kid has done nothing in a class and they've been a B student all year and they've done nothing since we started virtual learning, it's really hard to take that kid from a B and give them a B minus for the year when they've done nothing, where all these other kids have turned stuff in and at least have given a genuine effort. Maybe it's not quality B work, but they've at least tried. So that's where my staff right now is, with back and forth of what do I do with a kid like that? Do I take that kid from a B and give them a C plus and drop them almost like 2-letter grades, going from a B to a B minus to a C plus? So that's kind of what we're discussing. We also didn't want it to work the other way. This kid is a B student and they got a 99% in this class for the fourth 9 weeks. And now we're going to say that kid should go from a B all the way up to an A minus. Probably not what we're looking for. Maybe from a B to a B plus. Okay. I think everybody could live with that. And I think my staff is going to err on the side of the kid as much as they can. So we are taking into consideration the GPA, the importance of the GPA, and we're trying to be as fair as we can. And I mean, I'm lucky. I got a really good staff. They understand it. I think they all agreed with it. At least to my face, they agreed with it. And, I would say if there's any discrepancies, I'm sure I'm going to hear from the parents, and then I'll just go back to the teachers and make whatever modifications or clarification to those parents that we need to make.
Rowan, just take a moment and talk about how our teachers will be hand entering and calculating that final grade.
Okay, so what we devised for the grade book was, for the high school, we would make each 9 weeks grade 33.3% of their grade. So there's 3 9 weeks that are going to make up their final grade. The fourth 9 weeks is going to go in as a pass-fail, but what's going to happen is the only reason we did auto grade for the first 3 9 weeks is to just make the teachers not have to calculate a final grade. So if my grade in a class was a B plus, a B, and a B plus, when it auto grades, it might give me a B plus for the year. Then they're going to look at the fourth 9 weeks and say, hey, this kid got an A for the fourth 9 weeks, so maybe that B plus now can bump up to an A minus. Or if I got an F, maybe that B plus now bumps down to a B minus. I'm not sure, just depending. So that's kind of how we're doing. The auto grade is just helping the teachers get the final grade, and then the fourth 9 weeks, the teachers are going to be able to go in and adjust the final grades if they have to adjust the final grades. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Fairest way I think it's the fairest way we could do it. If I was a teacher, I would probably be most comfortable with that, knowing that, look, we're not saying that the kids are being dishonest, but we don't control. We really can't control when they're sitting at home taking an assessment or a test. If they're scoring way better or way different than they were in class and stuff like that, then we have to have some validity.
In summary, we're not looking for the fourth 9 weeks to affect a student's GPA.
Yeah, we don't want it to kill a GPA, but we also don't want to inflate it either. Okay?
That's fair, yeah. Thank you. So I have one more thing it's not so much about this resolution itself. It's going to be more looking to the future, since we still don't really know what school is going to look like, come late August. Are we going to be, with some of the lessons we've maybe learned from this, are we going to be looking at continuing this if we're still sort of in the blended learning, or are we going to try to get back to a normal grading scale as soon as possible, or is this something that's so far down the road that we're just kind of waiting for information?
To be honest, we have not talked about it as a team the fall. We've talked about plenty of things for fall, but not the grading scale at this point.
Okay, if there are no other questions on the resolutions that we have, we'll go through them. First up is the adoption of the 5-year forecast. Do I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is a resolution to authorize the distance learning for the days and hours and school buildings are closed to the students for the 1920 school year in compliance with the order of the Ohio Director of Health. Do I have a motion to move on that?
I motion.
Terry motions. Do I have a second?
Second.
Taylor seconds. Mr. Phillips, roll call, please.
Taylor Christian,
Yes.
Terry Lally,
Yes.
Ralph Wentz,
Yes.
Amy White,
Yes.
Brian Bagwell.
Next up is the food service management contract for the 2021 school year. Can I have a motion on that? Brian moves. Can I have a second?
Second.
Amy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the resolution to maintain employment and compensation of non-teaching employees, contracted service providers, and consultants for the remainder of the fiscal year 2020 to support continued operations and declaring evaluations impractical. Do I have a motion on that?
I'll motion.
Terry motions. Do I have a second?
Second.
Taylor, is that you, Taylor?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Mr. Phillips, roll call.
Taylor Christian,
Yes.
Terry Lally,
Yes.
Ralph Wentz,
Yes.
Amy White,
Yes.
Brian Bagwell.
Motion carries. Next up will be the 2019-20 school year fourth 9 weeks grading modification due to the COVID-19. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Amy moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Terry seconds. Mr. Phillips, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Taylor Christian,
Yes.
Terry Lally,
Yes.
Ralph Wentz,
Yes.
Amy White,
Yes.
Brian Bagwell.
Okay, motion carries. Next up is the approval for payment in lieu of transportation. May I have a motion for that? Brian moves. May I have a second? Taylor seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up would be the change of dates for our June board meeting, moving to Tuesday, June the 9th, here at the high school auditorium at 7:00 p.m. Can I have a motion for that?
I'll motion.
Terry makes the motion. I have a second.
Second.
Taylor seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And next up would be if anybody has questions on non-agenda items, please step up to the microphone.
I just wanted to say that since this is basically the last meeting you'll have for this school year, I know you go over the summer, but it's summer, everybody's on vacation, they're not very well attended. Mr. Dunham, I know you're gonna be on your way out. You and I have had our differences over the years, but good luck to you in your retirement, or, you know, if I've heard you might be looking for another job, so, you know, we have disagreed vehemently over the years, but I wish you best of luck going forward.
Thank you.
And I would also, Beth, I can't wait to see you take over. I would like to actually see what her input's gonna be over the summer, since a lot of this, you know, with no disrespect to Dennis, but he's not gonna be here, she's gonna be here. So I mean, I think if you're looking, if stuff starts to come down from the state, you know, changes, they decide that the school year is gonna be blended, you're gonna be in school 2 days and at home, whatever. I really think her input is gonna be invaluable, since she's the one that's gonna have to actually live it.
Just while you're on that subject, Rich, I would say that Bethany's been working very close with Dennis and Jim for the last few months, and we continue to look to have her actively involved in decisions that, you know, that she may have to stand behind and stuff, but we've been continuing to ask her input and actively having her involved too. So.
Good, yeah, I mean, and I figured you guys were, but I just, I think it's very important, even public, I would like to hear, it's like some of her, like what her thoughts were on the change in the grading scale, things like that. I know the universities have done it. I mean, that was the one thing I wanted to say when Taylor was speaking. The universities have already gone to a pass or a credit, no credit type system. I had one kid at YSU, they were just credit, no credit, flat out. One at West Virginia where it was, there was, I think, they went to a pass fail, but it was high pass, pass, or no pass. So I think if it was like an A, B, or C in the class, you got a high pass. If you got a D, you got a pass because you would still get credit. There's some, degrees where a D, even though you get a D in the class, you pass the class, you don't have to retake it, and then there was no pass. So there are just different scenarios like that where you may, depending upon what happens, God willing, I hope for the kids' sake we'll be in school in the fall because, kids in college, kids in high school, I think if you talk to them, I don't think that, with no disrespect to the teachers or the effort put forward or anything like that, I just don't think it's an environment, it's far from an ideal learning environment what they're having to go through, so.
I think we all would agree to that.
Good luck with all that, but Dennis, good luck to you. Beth, I look forward to you coming on board.
Thank you. Next up would be the district update from Mr. Dunham, please.
So just a couple of comments. Again, absolutely very proud of our community, our families, our kids, our staff, the entire South Range staff for the way the pandemic's been handled. Of course, could we back up if we could do it over again, make a few different changes to what we've come up with over the last several months? I think anyone could say that sure, if we could do it again. But based on the information we've had at the time, I believe our staff has embraced everything with compassion and a willingness to help one another. Somebody asked, hey, has anyone really witnessed family members with COVID-19? And I think that's something that if you haven't, you will in time. And I'm certain we have relatives of family members that are going through this. Relatives of staff members that are going through this, but they've continued to do their job as we would expect them to do. So each month I sit here and I say, hey, let's continue to be mindful and compassionate of the situation because as board members, building principals, superintendent, we're leaders in our organization, and we have to model what's best for our community. So we've witnessed over the last 46 days of school that's been closed physically, but face-to-face, which we yearn to have face-to-face interaction again, and things are coming back online. But the last 10 weeks have really, I think, made our families, our immediate families, closer together. We know how important it is to have a strong community, and I think to many of the points we've talked about so far, whatever that decision is in the fall, we'll be prepared for it, because when I talked last month, we literally had 4 days to prepare for remote learning. So whatever that hybrid model is, whether it's face-to-face or blended learning, I truly believe, and again with Bethany's leadership and in our admin team and the board's leadership, we'll be prepared for it. So here we are, the last week of school, basically. I'm beyond proud of our certificated, our classified staff. They've risen to the occasion. I've spoken for weeks now about preparing meals, delivering meals, cleaning buildings, buses, the teaching and learning that goes on in and out of the classroom, in and out of the household, countless hours on the phone, answering mail, text messages, differentiating once again Saturdays to a Monday. They're all the same. Last Saturday we had a parade to honor our K-8. It was more geared to K-8, certainly not so much 9-12, but we had a K-4 and then a 5-8 parade. Personally for me, it made me reflect that we have some great things going on here. It's been several months since some of our teachers have seen their students, and several months since some of our students have seen their teachers. And there are a lot of tears rolling down people's cheeks, and there's a lot of tears of joy to see their kids. But it was just a really surreal time for people on Saturday morning at 11 o'clock, and then later in the afternoon at 2 o'clock for the middle school. But the theme weeks, the pictures, the parades, every week there's been something that I'd say sets us apart from other districts. We have graduation coming up on May 30th. Certainly not what anyone would have ever envisioned, to have a single-family drive-up graduation where the students and their family get out of the car, walk across an empty stage to an empty stadium, and get back in the car and drive away with, reminiscing of what it used to be like. So we just hope to God that next year it's different. But whether it is or it is not, I have faith in our leadership of the board, in our principals and teachers and Bethany, that we're going to have some good things here. So again, class of 2020 graduation, I wish them the very best. We have some virtual graduation, some presentations with Val and Sal, and some speeches that we'll be splicing together. Mr. Rowan's done just a phenomenal job with that. And at this point, we're praying for good weather on May 30th at 2 o'clock. If it is not nice out or a chance of storms, we'll set it up and do the same thing in the auditorium. But again, beyond proud of everyone during an unprecedented time. There was no book, no textbook, no manual to say how to do this, other than people's empathy and compassion for one another, and that was the difference. So thank you to all.
Thank you very much, and again, I'd echo those comments as well. Thank you to just everybody, from parents to staff to board members to administrators. Just thank you for everything that you've done. We've had a lot of creative ideas come out of this, and I hope that, as all of us do here, that we get back, when the school year starts back up, to more of the traditional type learning that we've all become accustomed to. So again, thank you to everyone. At this time, I'd like to have a motion to go into executive session under Ohio Revised Code 121.22 and Board Policy 10166 for the consideration and appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, and compensation of a public employee. May I have a motion to go to executive session? Okay, Terry motions, Amy seconds. Mr. Phillips, could we have roll call, please?
Taylor Christian?
No.
Terry Lally?
Yes.
Ralph Wentz?
Yes.
Amy White?
Yes.
Brian Bagwell?
And the board enters executive session at 7:49 p.m.
Saturday, and the board went black on Saturday, so I got about 400 emails saying the kids were like, it's not on, I'm sitting here, it's black. Well, I called the company, they had a glitch, they fixed it, and they're gonna give us 2 more days, so the thing's gonna run for a month, and it started today, so it's gonna go for 1 month today, so it's 2 weeks kind of before graduation, and then 2 weeks after graduation. So if you go there, right by the Sheetz gas station.
Right, I know right where you're talking about.
Diagonal from the Sheetz gas
by
station.
Dollar General.
And it's running right now, I sat there for 20 minutes today, and it pretty much went through the whole class in about 20 minutes.
In about 20 minutes.
Because we took out 2 ads, there's 6 ads on the board, so our ad goes, then maybe MCCTC has an ad, somebody else has an ad, somebody else, then our ad goes again, so it's 3 kids, then 3 different kids. Then the next time around, 3 different kids, 3 different kids, and it just kind of keeps rotating. The only bad thing is the number we have, 53, is not divisible by 3, so it's not always the same 3 kids on the board. So it might be you 3 this time, but then the next time, it's you 3. So it switches it every time. So the kids can't just say, I know right where I'm at, I'm gonna go, it kind of shuffles it around. But it's a really cool ad. The guy did a great job designing it, it's very cool. It's worth going up there for 15 minutes.
To sit and watch it.
Yeah, buy a Slurpee or something from Sheetz and watch it, it's really worth it. I would take it, read it with the club. Thank you. Okay.
Steve?
Yo.
So were you at Dairy Queen last night in Columbiana? Yes.
Yeah, I don't know that my son would, I don't know. Today he wants to be an engineer, then he wants to be a pharmacist, now he wants to be an electrician. Tomorrow he wants to be, like my dad was a carpenter, he's like, oh, you know.
If he likes chemistry, in all honesty, chemical engineering is phenomenal.
I don't know if he's smart enough to be a chemical engineer, but he likes chemistry. You never know, like if a kid likes a subject, he can be really good at it, and like that was me. I
You
wasn't
don't have
really
to be a genius to do it, though. I mean,
I know.
you can graduate to 2.0 and you're gonna get, it's what they call last kid they graduate from medical school.
He's a doctor, that's right.
So I mean, but, the only reason I tell you that, I just wanted to. let
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, again,
It's bad. It's
You're
really,
over-flooded.
it's really, really bad.
all right, hey, have a good night.
I won't see you anymore, so what I'll say,
Get up there and get to see that sign looks really cool.
I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back from executive session at 8:21. Mr. Dunham?
Yeah, a few personnel items I'd like to cover with all of you. A few personnel items I'd like to cover with our board members. The first is to approve a maternity leave of absence for Madeline Caputo for the 2020-2021 school year. That's effective July 18th through August 31st, 2020. Accept the resignation of Lisa Ketterer as a part-time aide effective May 27th, 2020. Also to grant a continuing teacher contract to Jennifer Amendola effective for the 2021 school year. And there is a list of supplemental contracts and extended time contracts I will be recommending for you to approve. With this caveat, asterisk beside it, compensation of said contract is pending official start date and subsequent completion of assigned duties as per the South Range Education Association and South Range Board of Education negotiated agreement. You can see a list of supplemental contracts, extended time contracts for the 2021 school year. The extended time and supplemental contracts are for our employees only at this point. Tomorrow, there will be another posting for the unfilled supplemental contracts, which would permit outsiders or non-teaching staff to apply. That's it for personnel.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve personnel? Terry motions. Do I have a second?
Second.
Amy seconds. Mr. Phillips, roll call, please.
Taylor Christian? Yes. Terry Lally?
Yes.
Ralph Wentz?
Yes.
Amy White?
Yes.
Brian Bagwell?
Okay, next up would be adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Amy moves. Do I have a second? Taylor seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and we are adjourned, and you'll see everybody on graduation day. Thank you.
Is it okay to check tomorrow? Can I just, you want me to call first and everybody's up and dressed by 9 o'clock or so? Or I'll call first if I come out early. Well, I don't want to walk up to the kitchen door and have naked people running around there. I've done that before. It's very uncomfortable.